Mark Weiss, everybody. Album covers, including Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet, and Twisted Sister's Stay Hungry, and a Dokken record. Was it Under Lock and Key?
Oh yeah, the one where George is wearing that really cool outfit, you know, in red. Remember that one, George?
Yeah, I'll never forget that album cover shoot because one of the guys in the band was getting venereal warts removed from his dick right before that picture. And I don't even know why I said that, but it's true.
Well, if it wasn't you, there's three other guys.
Thank you and good night. Mic drop.
So that's Mark Weiss and his story about venereal warts.
No, that was George's, for the record.
George's, but Mark was involved.
No, I wasn't.
Loosely. Over here, another old friend as well who has produced, mixed, engineered. There's no way, let's just put it this way, on this cruise, there's no way you don't have an album in your catalog or your collection that this man did not work on. You name it, he's pretty much done it. This is Mr. Michael Wagener, everybody. Get out! Spelled W-A-G-E.
And you know what's awesome about Michael?
He's German.
He's the least German that I know. In fact, I think they kicked him out of the country, which is why he lives in Nashville now.
Get out!
Because he doesn't like
I don't
beer.
drink beer and I don't like sauerkraut. But I do have a sense of humor.
And he has a sense of humor. Anti-German.
And as if you didn't know, the man next to him, a man who really needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. He's a man of many bands, Mr. George Lynch, everybody.
Whatever.
And next to him, a man who was the face of MTV in the golden era. Look at that mug. He's still got it. He's still got the stubble. He's still got everything happening. Mr. Kip Winger, ladies and gentlemen.
Ballet, that's all I gotta say.
I made a lot of money by selling his photos in magazines, let me tell you.
I guess, are we gonna, you guys want to fire away some questions at these guys? Is that what we want to do? Is that,
Please do.
Everybody, I think the idea of this is a Q&A, but...
I'll get it started.
All right, go ahead.
I have a question for Michael Wagener.
Oh, no.
Michael Wagener, so what year was it when you really got into the business? And tell me about your history with Accept and all of that. That's kind of around the time when it all started, right? Or was it before that?
Sure. Well, I grew up with a singer in Accept, Udo. We went to school together, and at some point we decided that we wanted to do a band.
Turn up Michael Wagener. I want to hear this.
Yeah, so anyway,
there
we decided to do a band, but didn't have a name for it, so we called it Band X. Very smart, right? And then later on, I got drafted to the army in Germany, and they drafted me 350 miles away, which makes practice kind of hard. So I stopped practicing, and I decided that I'd go on the other side of the glass, which I'm really happy about by now.
What you played guitar?
I played guitar, yeah, and I played guitar in the very, very first version of Accept. And
that's some history right there, folks.
So, no, thank God, no. So that's how it started, and you know.
What is balls for balls?
I don't know.
George is asking what ball.
That was after my time.
You produced that.
It sounds gay.
No, I mixed it. That was the one I mixed, yeah.
You mixed it, that's what I meant.
Right.
Because you were...
Now George is the one that's off mic,
It's a gay
everybody.
thing? I didn't know that.
Okay, the Balls to Walls cover is a guy's crotch, so that's gay. It's called Balls to Walls. Is it gay?
No, it wasn't at the time.
Hey, dude, I'm just asking.
The lyrics to Accept songs were written by Wolf Hoffman's wife.
Right, that's correct.
They were written
So
by
it couldn't be
female
gay.
because they didn't know how to speak English. So his wife wrote the lyrics to all those songs. So she wrote Balls
That's
to Walls
right.
lyrics
Yeah, Daffy.
under the name
I love
Daffy.
the teeth grinding. I love it.
Now I'm getting into the geek zone.
So you guys need to know that when Reb Beach and I were writing the first record, we were listening to a bunch of shit that Wagener produced and a lot of Dokken, because Reb Beach, George Lynch was Reb Beach's favorite guitar player. So throughout the whole first album, we would sit and listen to their shit and learn.
Basically, the whole rock realm is just a bunch of mutual admiration society members. We all love each other and feed off of each other and plagiarize each other. And
I was beating off George Lynch earlier. It was.
Well, that's better than beating up. There's another group of people that want to do that. Take a number, get
just
mine.
skin.
You know, you know how I could make money on this cruise? I could have a little booth instead of a meet and greet. I could do a meet and beat. Take a number and beat my ass.
So I'll sell the shirt.
So many people want to beat me up,
for that,
it's great. In the last year, I've got threatened to get beat up by very famous people 4 or 5 times, and I'm not even making that up.
Can you tell who it is? Come
No,
on.
I don't want to say this.
And he gets beat up again.
On the cruise?
Here, I have a theory. I think, because I used to be like kind of bigger and stronger when I was younger, and you know, you couldn't really like beat me up. But now that I'm 63 and kind of, you know, life finds a way to just kind of, you know, balance things out, you can kind of beat me up. And I think these people are kind of like, you know what, I can kick your ass, fuck you.
So you're saying they've been waiting for you to get older and more vulnerable now they're coming around.
Exactly. What does that say about the character of those people?
What does it say about what you did to them? They've been waiting in the weeds.
There's that too.
Hey, I got a quick question for George real quick, though. George, me being an East Coast guy, I know a lot of people in the LA area always told me and tell me still about the band you had before Dokken. Was it called Exciter? Was that the name of it? And they talk about it in legendary terms, like
unbelievable.
great
We rode
the
around
band.
in Pegasus, and we had magical swords, and just we didn't even need electricity. We were unbelievable. Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, are there recordings? Are there videos? Is there any? Did you make original music with that band? I don't know anything about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
You did.
just like everybody else, you know, we were playing alongside all the greats in those great music scene in Los Angeles in the late 70s, mid-late 70s, where the bands were all different. It wasn't like nobody would copy anybody else. It wasn't like we were all wearing Ray Brown outfits and trying to look the same and
Look
take
at me,
Mark
George.
Weiss pictures. You know?
It wasn't my fault. You know, you wore the outfit. I didn't.
It was just insane bands, but they were all so different. So it was really a creative moment for music in the LA scene. I think it was really the golden era of music in LA for me.
Was that when Van Halen was in the clubs?
Yeah,
too?
it was right as Van Halen, right when they were Mammoth, right before they became Van Halen. Then there was a la carte. There was some magic band that was incredible. They were doing holograms and things like that.
Angel?
No, I forget what they were called. They were progressive.
Did you ever share bills with Van Halen back then in the clubs?
Oh yeah,
You did?
many times. And Quiet Riot, Randy, and yeah, it was very competitive too. Yeah, there was a lot of great bands, like great guitar players who were sort of coming up right then too. A lot of guys that didn't make it. Kevin from a la carte is kind of an unsung guy that, to me, I actually got involved with them in the early Dokken years because I had some money and stuff, and I believed them, and I tried to get them in front of people. But to me, there was Van Halen, and then to a lesser extent, ourselves and a la carte. I thought were the big contenders.
Question for anybody up here? Question for George? What was it like working with Robert Englund?
Oh, well, if you like doing cocaine off fucking razor blades, it was great. Which, the byproduct of doing cocaine is it makes you weak. And then in the video, I had to crash through this wall with my guitar for the guitar solo. But I was like a fucking 9-year-old little girl. I couldn't get through the wall with all the cocaine. And then also that one girl like me, what's her name? Arquette.
Patricia?
Yeah, she was like wanted to like kind of get with me and shit, but I did so much coke that didn't work either. So cocaine is a bad drug, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it makes you paranoid, impotent, and broke. So don't do it. Run away.
And makes people want to beat you up for no reason on cruises.
And there's negative sides.
Anybody else for any of the guys on this stage? Question. Come on up so we can get you a microphone. Everybody can hear you.
All right, this one is for George.
No, dude. I already get one question. You gotta ask somebody else now.
George.
This is a
George.
It's a really interesting question. Loosely, I heard that you were at some point after Randy unfortunately passed away, you were considered by Ozzy.
Yeah. Old
Do you mind
story.
explaining what happened? I haven't heard the whole story.
I got the consolation prize, which was I got to teach at Randy's school, mom's school, Misonia. But most of Randy's students were pretty young girls because Randy was a good-looking guy, and they didn't give a shit about playing guitar. They just wanted to sit there and look at Randy all day. And then I showed up, and most of them quit. And that's my Randy Rose.
Anybody else? Come on over in the corner if you can. Help me out here.
My question's for Michael. Is there an album that you didn't produce that you wish you did, that you could have been involved with, that you turned down? A band or an album that you just said, man, that's one I wish I would have done?
Yeah, I was asked to mix Appetite for Destruction.
Lynch.
And I go, I don't know, those guys are on drugs. No, that's not my thing. Oh yeah, Soundgarden too. That wasn't my thing either. Yeah.
Hey, at least he's man enough to admit it. I give him a round of applause for that, huh? Those are too tough to admit, for sure. Any other questions for our panel? Go ahead.
Question to Mark. 84, Bark at the Moon, Show at the Devil Tour. Any funny memories about the iconic picture with Motley Crue and Ozzy dressed like a lady?
Yes, actually, that will be in my book coming up.
Hey!
Yep, in October. Yeah, that it was down south somewhere, and Ozzy used to do crazy things once in a while, you know. And just one day, he said to me, he goes, "Let's go to Motley Crue's. You know, we need some lingerie. He wants some lingerie and some panties." So Motley used to have this little chest where they kept their trophies with lingerie and bras and, you know, all the good stuff. And so me and my friend Michael Kirk, who worked at Faces Magazine, we were on assignment doing a shoot there. And we went and rummaged through, you know, went through the chest and grabbed a bunch of lingerie, and we started dressing Ozzy before the show. Lipstick, the whole thing. He put we got a wig on him and everything. And then he went on stage like that. It was great.
Again, don't do cocaine.
Oh, I left that out. Yeah, there was a lot of cocaine involved.
Anybody else? I came over on this side. If there's people, come. John Gallagher, ladies and gentlemen of Raven. How are you, John?
I got one for Kip.
Yes, master.
We had some fun with a record company called Atlantic Records. I believe you guys were associated with them too. You got any horror stories?
Oh, Atlantic. Horror stories. I mean, you know, not. I have to say they were good. They were nice to us. We got signed. It was a terrible record deal. You know, we got signed on a favor basically because the president of Atlantic had heard my demo tapes for years and years and really only signed us because my friend was Bo Hill and Bo had a hit with Rat, so they gave us the record deal on a favor, basically, and it was a terrible record deal. But I have to say, they promoted it very well right up until Beavis and Butthead. And when Beavis and Butthead happened, we would call the label and it'd be like, if you'd like to make a call, please hang up. Like, Kip who? So, other than the fact they turned on us on a dime, I mean, they weren't so bad. But if you'd like to tell your story, yeah, come on up and tell it. I mean, I'm sure everybody would like to hear it.
Jay, you got a question? Come on over. Stand right in front of the PA with us.
I'd like to know what kind of deal with the devil and what it costs for Michael Sweet and Kip and George too. That you signed with the devil, you guys stopped aging. Where do you sign up for that?
He thinks we stopped aging.
He believes you've both stopped aging. It's whatever George is drinking here. This is a special potion. Is it clean living? Maybe. I don't know.
It's not true, actually. If you put one photo from the old days now up to the next one, it's like, it's pretty bad.
I mean, I could show you some gray pubes and it would blow your mind.
Anybody else?
I'll show you a 13-pound prostate, too.
Amen. For Kip Winger, what is the different writing processes that you have from writing a rock record and writing a classical record?
The reason I started writing orchestral music was basically because I heard it very early on and knew that I always wanted to do that, but didn't understand how to do it. So the classical thing is different for me because I just see the music. And it took me, I was illiterate until 35 or so. I started studying at 35 and learned how to do that process. It turns out that it's actually not very different. I'll start writing a classical piece with what could be translated to a riff, you know, on a guitar or something like that. So I'll take that and then I'll kind of expand on that. And orchestration is very similar to rock and pop music. It's just different instruments. Instead of a keyboard going wah on fourths, you'll use French horns or something like that. So at first I thought it was very different, and it took a long time for the learning curve, but as it turns out, it's actually not so different. Except that with writing rock, it's more of a collaboration, and the glory of rock music for me is in the collaboration. It's kind of when you work with a guitar player, and I work with Reb, so we'll put up a beat on a drum machine or something, and Reb will blow a riff, and we'll start working with that. And then the collaboration between us is really where it all begins. And then even it goes beyond that to the audience. You know, the collaboration with the audience is very much a part of the rock scene. It's not so much with the classical. And the classical thing is you sit alone in a room for a year and, write a piece and then put it up in front of a bunch of musicians who are seriously going to judge you until you prove yourself. And then the audience sits and, very quietly and waits and see if they like it, so it's a whole nother deal, That's the difference. It's more of a collaborative thing with rock, and classical's kind of just a thing where you try to work out the demons in your head.
Okay, this lady right over here's got a question.
So, segue, Kip, when will Get Jack be available on DVD? And George, what's the status of your documentary? And can we start a GoFundMe page if it's still not come to fruition yet?
George, your documentary?
It's actually going to be released this year on a limited basis, I believe through Netflix. There's been 8.5 years of, just 8 years, I'm sorry, 8 years, 8 years, and I would never, ever, if I attempt to make another film, just shoot me, because I had no idea what I was doing. Like Kip mentioned, learning the learning curve for writing classical music. The same thing with learning curve with learning how to be a filmmaker. I mean, not a filmmaker, but just having to learn to deal with all these things that I didn't know about in the midst of making it. It was just insane. So, thus it took 8 years, and a lot of money, and people have helped us out financially with it. But there's no real money to be made in that level of filmmaking, documentary filmmaking anyways. But and if anybody doesn't know, the film is called Shadow Nation. It's a film about Native Americans in music. And we basically spent years traveling, 11 of us, from reservation to reservation, interfacing with Native Americans and politicians. And it's a political film, and it deals with, with history. And it's painful. And the problem with selling it is, when I say sell it, I don't mean for a profit. I mean just to get the fucker out there so people can see it, because it's important. Because I think, there's a valid, the film is valid in the sense that these are painful things that we need to reflect on. But it's just the subject matter is tough. It's painful, and it forces us to look in the mirror and be honest with ourselves. And people don't want to do that. They want to drink pina coladas and ride on a cruise ship. And I get that. We get to do that too, but at the same time, we need to be responsible and be accountable. So, if we're going to move forward. So I'm trying
That's a worthy cause right there.
Trying to get it out there. It's called Shadow Nation. The band is all Native American, and we have a record out called, the band's called Shadow Train. I want to just shout out to, and a sad note, our singer passed away a few weeks ago, Greg and I, a fantastic Isla de Pueblo human being, singer, activist, motorcycle accident, and very, very, very sad. John Trudell, who I partnered with and wrote some songs, original, one of the first American Indian movement leaders on the first boat to Alcatraz, led the march to Washington, D.C., occupied the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the 70s. He passed away from cancer also 2 years ago. I wrote some songs with him that are on the record, including Trail of Tears. And yeah, people were dropping like flies. We need to get this movie out there, and yeah, it's a labor of love for sure. And thank you for recognizing that. And hopefully you'll get to watch it soon.
Anybody else? What happened? What's Get Jack on DVD?
Well, it's I've been working on a musical for the last 3 years, so it's kind of a cross between Sweeney Todd and Tommy. She wants to. It's kind of a cross between Sweeney Todd and Tommy. It's a dark. It's not really a. It's not. It's about the 5 women Jack the Ripper killed who come back for vengeance on Jack. So it's not the Spinal Tap Jack the Ripper, and it's not a worthy cause like George's thing.
No, actually, I think that interfaces with me too.
It's we immortalize the women because how many of you guys could name one of the women that he killed? You know, so we tell the stories and bring them back to life, and it's fun and cool and dark and weird. And it's another one of these learning curve things. I've never worked on anything that's this difficult, so and it takes a shitload of time. Hamilton was in production for 5 years before they did anything, so I'm sure it'll be 3 or 4 years before anything happens with this. But we're doing readings, and I'll put the concept record out soon. We recorded all the stuff. We got a bunch of we have really super high-level Broadway singers and stuff. You know, we got a really great cast. So I didn't want to sing on it. That's way too Spinal Tap. I'll sing on my own musical with an English accent. You know, ain't gonna happen. But yeah, thanks for asking. It's just keep an eye on the Facebook page. We're moving along. It's very slow, but
she's documented every single thing you just said, like from a foot away. So now it's on record, man. You better deliver what you said.
Exactly.
Come on. Guy with an Eddie Trunk shirt on, I gotta let him have the microphone. Come on, man. Thank you. Available at the merch stand as well as all the other bands' merch, by the way.
For each of you, what was your worst experience in the studio, or maybe most interesting experience in the studio?
Let's let Michael start with that.
Yeah. It's hard to say, you know. You do the record, you work in the studio, and things happen, and you forget about them, you remember them. There's no worst or best. It's all music, and you know, for me, that's all best.
How did Udo Dirkschneider get that grinding sound in the bridge breakdown of Balls to the Walls? How did you make that sound?
He grinds his teeth. He grinds his teeth.
And how did they make the marching sounds?
Oh, yeah, that's kind of a funny story. I had this brand new Halliburton case when I went to Germany to mix the record. And the drummer says, "Can I borrow that for a second?" And he borrows and he fills it up with old water taps and screws and, you know, metal tools. And he goes like this. That was the end of the case. Yeah.
Anybody else? Come on, step forward if you can, please. Is it you or him? You as well? Okay, you take one and then go back.
Come on, I was going to say, do any of you have any stories maybe from your best tours that you'd like to go over?
I can't remember jack shit. We need Rod Morgenstein for that. He's got the memory. We did, you know, there's all the stupid shit, like when Reb goes, "I'm going to come out on my knees," and he slides out on his knees and falls into the pit, you know? This kind of shit. First show with the Scorpions, band's never played live before. First chord, Reb's amp blows up, like, you know. One time I'm like hitting a really high note, like, "Wah!" And I see somebody in the fucking 30 rows back go, and I'm like, "Ah!" And I had a headset. I'm like, "Ah!" Dodging that fucker, and it landed right in my mouth. Fucking chunky with a hair. And I had a headset, so I'm like, and it's like dangling from the headset. Fucking smelled like it was awful. You know, Alice Cooper, they hate you, so they're throwing bottles of piss, you know, that kind of.
You guys told a story on that metal show early on with us about the time that Alice Cooper's snake shit all over the pedal board.
That was Reb. Yeah, that was Reb. Yeah, he was carrying it on. He was playing, and the boa constrictor took a shit on his pedal board, and he had to use his feet, to move the button.
Anybody else? Yeah, the guy in the back here. Go ahead.
When you write movie soundtracks like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and Nightmare on Elm Street, do you have to actually watch the movie and then write the song based upon what you're watching? Or do they give you notes?
No, with song soundtracks, they just pick the songs and the music director just sticks them in. You don't do any music to picture. What happened with your documentary?
That's scoring.
Yeah. Did you do that? Or?
Yeah, I was actually, near the end of last year, I had to actually get involved in editing, which I have no idea how to do, but I found out how to do it. And that's the hardest part, obviously. And as far as applying the music to it, yes, we didn't actually do scoring. We wrote music and then just kind of flew it in where we felt it was appropriate. It's just kind of background music, but it wasn't there to kind of emphasize an emotion or anything because it's a documentary.
Right. Yeah, no, when you write a song for a movie, they'll go, hey, we need a song for a movie, and you just write the song. Sometimes they might say, well, can you write a song for this section? And then, 50 people will write the same song, and they'll pick the best one. Oh, well, when I wrote Bill and Ted, what was that song called? They gave me the script, so I tried to read the script and integrate some shit, but I wasn't watching the movie.
Got a couple questions over here.
This is for Mark. Is there anybody that you didn't get to photograph?
Oh, thanks. Well, I would always love to go out on the road with Rolling Stones. I mean, I shot them live, but to go on the road with them and shoot Keith backstage with a bottle of Jack or something would be awesome. But, the 80s to me were like, those bands were, they made everyone young, stay young, and for me to say that I documented that whole lifestyle throughout that decade, it's, these guys, George, Kip, everyone else that's on board here, these are all like my old schoolmates almost, So, yeah.
First thing Mark Weiss ever said to me was, who shot that picture of you? There's a big piece of fat hanging over your waist.
Say what? Say what? I taught these guys how to pose. Come on, George. George.
That was before Photoshoot.
George, come on. Come on. Little leanage, Kip. A little leanage.
No, he put Rod on like a couple phone books because he was shorter than everybody. What the hell?
You had to do that back then.
Who else? Somebody?
It's another one from Mark. With the invention of the internet, now most publications don't mind using poor quality like cell phone photos because they're free.
And we're all broke.
Yeah. Has that changed your life at all? I know you're on a whole different level.
Well, I don't shoot for money anymore. I shoot because I love doing it.
Because there is no money in it.
There's no money,
Oh, good. Can we do a free photo shoot?
I'm going to charge George.
I've been waiting for that for 30 fucking years, Mark.
No, I just, the photos that are out there, but there is a new magazine.
Yes.
Free album, free photo shoot.
There's a new magazine called Hustler X.
Mark, that is something I hear, though, from a lot of photographers that they're kind of disgusted by the fact that the quality has come down so much.
Wait, back up. How about that free downloading shit?
Well, yeah, of course. But the fact that, cell phone cameras are so good now that anybody with filters and all the technology, anybody can make any photo kind of look good. And it's a bit of a challenge, especially like Mark has the catalog and the archives and everything. But a guy starting out now, today, it's got to be tough.
I'd have to deter from that, but thank God I have my babies, that are there, and I'm now bringing them out, showing everybody. But I am blessed that have that period documented. Today, if you want to take photographs and you really believe in it, just do it. Hook up with a band, get backstage, get the access, because it's the access that really counts. Getting the access, getting the bands where no one else will really be able to see them, and those are the people or the photographs that will make you and give you some recognition if that's what you're looking for.
This one's for Mark and Michael. We always hear how artists get into the business. How did you two get into the music business and shooting, photography, musicians, being a producer and such? What got you there?
Well, I was mowing lawns when I was 13 years old, and this one guy had a unkept lawn, and I knocked on his door and said, "Do you need your lawn mowed?" And he said, "No, I mow my own lawn." I said, "It doesn't really look like that, you know, because it was like really long." So he kind of laughed. He says, "I'll tell you what, if you mow my lawn for the season, I will give you this camera." And he went back and got the camera, and he showed it to me. It was a Bell & Howell Canon, real clunker. And after
Penis Colossus.
After eight mowing his lawn for 8 weeks, he gave me this camera, and that's how I started. I started shooting my brother, riding motorcycles, my dog, and all that. So I started like kind of getting involved in that. And then I kind of put it down. And then a couple of years later, I started going to concerts, and Peter Frampton, and then Led Zeppelin, and I started selling my pictures in front of the concerts, and then it kind of just snowballed from there. But if it wasn't for that, me knocking on that door, I mean, I would probably be mowing lawns still.
And you wanted Michael on that one as well, that question, right? Michael, the very beginning. You kind of touched on it, right? You're playing guitar and Accept, and...
Yeah, that's how it all started. From a production standpoint, it was like the first Dokken album, where those guys came from America, and they brought their American tuners that are running on a different tuning frequency than in Germany. And I was just a happy little engineer on the session, and after 3 days, everything was out of tune. And they all looked around the room and, "You're the producer now." That got me into producing.
It was actually a really wonderful memory of making that record, because we were in the basement of Dieter Dirk Studios, a legendary German producer who produced the Scorpions. Scorpions were upstairs. Who was the guitar player that was there?
Matthias?
No. The blues guitar player, Rory Gallagher.
Oh, yeah.
Rory Gallagher was in one room. But Scorpions were in another room, and somebody else. But anyways, we were down in the basement, and I had Richie Blackmore's cabinet was left over there, and his Rangemaster treble booster, and it had a Telefunken 24-track tube machine. And I know that's kind of wonky.
32.
Have you ever seen a tube 2-inch tape machine? We recorded our first record with Michael on a 24-track Telefunken 2-inch tube machine.
32.
How crazy is that? That's amazing.
And that, to this day, I got to say, when I listen back to that record, the record is very immature, the writing and it's a lot of the sounds, but the guitar sound, not to just talk about myself, but the guitar sound on that is probably the best guitar sound I've ever gotten. It still stands up. You listen to the solo on Breaking the Chains. It's all, it sounds like a real guitar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not overly distorted, it's just dynamic, it sounds old school. That's the tape, that's tubes, you know.
And I remember the last note of the solo was not on the fretboard anymore, because you only had like 20 frets or something like that.
And we would lock ourselves in the basement. We actually put up plywood and spray painted, keep out for blood and all this kind of stuff. Would let none of the other band members were allowed to come in when we were tracking guitars. And then at the end, we brought in the guys from the Scorpions and Rory Gallagher to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Sort of pretended to like it.
Anybody else? Time for a few more? Jay again. Don't ask them why they look young, Jay.
Mark, including the shit you've never shown us from backstage, what's your favorite picture?
My best picture. I love in 1982, I came up with a concept with my partner who was the editor of the music section of We magazine, which was a men's magazine. And we shot, our concept was pretty simple, and it was naked women with rock stars. And Motley Crue was one of our first ones, and it was their first national layout, and we just kind of got the girls naked and shot them with motorcycles and smoke and blood. And that was the first time I met Motley, actually, back then. It was 1982. And then we did Ozzy in a church on a pool table with girls, and Ozzy poking his pool stick, with Sharon in the background, watching. And we did Motorhead, Hulk Hogan, Joe Perry, with my old girlfriend, naked, and my house with a motorcycle. Those were pretty good times.
Anybody? Oh, somebody serving drinks.
How come George only gets it?
Anybody else? Anybody else? Gentleman again with the UFO shirt. Here you go, sir.
I mean, I can never remember.
Weiss, tell us about the f-stop settings on your camera. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear crazy fucking stories.
I don't even know what an f-stop is.
Okay. To Mark, again.
Yes.
How did you make the assembly of Twisted Sister play cover?
Oh, that was a monumentous occasion. It was basically a manhole cover. My dad made this street. There's about a ton. I don't know if anyone knows it, but it's him coming out of this manhole. And we basically constructed it. We constructed a real manhole. And I don't know, we basically just propped it up. D came out, and we did a pop-up cover. And I don't know. That's kind of it. It was a big project. I was really hoping that album would do amazing, because then, of course, when an album cover does good, an album does good. Whatever's with it, whether it's the producer, the photographer, the co-writers, whoever, it gets they get the praise as well. And I was really hoping that album, because I art directed it as well, I was hoping that would do good.
All right, so I'm on stage and I'm fucking wearing really tight pants.
And then George,
and there's 60,000 people in the stadium, and when I blow out the whole front of my pants, I'm not wearing underwear. I've been doing coke all night and a little bit of street. And I'm
and George
high and shit. Yeah. So then I waddle over, because I'm in the middle of the song, right? I waddle over to my tech, and I'm pointing at my junk, and I'm saying, dude, I gotta keep playing the song. I can't stop, right? And he's like, what do I do? And I'm just like,
duct tape.
He looks around, duct tape, gets on his knees. So from the audience vantage point, you see this guy on his knees at crotch level, his head's at crotch level, working furiously on my, genitals. And he's wrapping everything with duct tape, right? And I go back out.
It's a massive armadillo in his trousers.
I'm going to redeem myself. I'm going to go out, and I stood in front of the monitors on the edge of the stage, right? Monitors are behind me. I got this wall of amps behind me. I'm going to go out there and explode doors. I'm going to fucking kill. I'm going to do the solo. I'm laying back. All of a sudden, I had all this carnage on my lips, and I had these earrings that were real light, and it was really windy out. They blew across my lips and stuck to my lips. And then I have this Mr. T fucking chains. And that all blew up, and I was stuck in my Aquanet in my hair, and I couldn't see, and I couldn't talk, and I was standing there with duct tape wrapped around my duck, duct tape right around my duck. And then I go, well, I better get back to you, and I forgot the monitors behind me, fell over the amp, fell over the monitor, cartwheeled into my stacks, and the stacks collapsed on top of me because they didn't have speakers.
No one could ever top that. Thank you.
It's not planned.
And what did it feel like taking the tape off when you finally pull it off?
Yeah.
All those gray pubes came.
Well, it was a double. It was kind of a twofer because I got a free. What is that called? They charge a bridge.
A boyzillion.
Yeah. Maybe time for one or two more quick ones here.
I got nothing like that.
I got way better ones.
I heard you earlier, Kip, you said you were going to do another classical record. I love your 2 solo records.
Thank you.
They're just amazing music.
There's 4 of them, but thank you. I'm just kidding.
I 2, but
now my mind is blank. I can't. I pick
story
up.
toppers,
I got
story
that.
toppers.
I got that dick tape in my mind.
Okay, we got to rename this. When we do this ever again, we got to call this Story Toppers. And what we do is we all come up here. One of us tells a story. It's a game show, and you're going to be like the head of the game show, right? Announce the winner, and then one of us tells a story. Then we each have to top it, right? Until somebody doesn't top it, right?
Yeah. Whoever loses gets dick taped.
You just won.
I'll talk to you afterwards. It's way too serious.
Anybody else here?
I'm happy to tell you.
My question's for Kim. What's going on, man? First of all, happy anniversary. Happy 30th anniversary to the self-titled album.
Thank you.
I'm wearing my In the Heart of the Young shirt for you, man. But my question is for Paul. Paul was the 3rd and last album before you guys broke up. Were there any plans originally to release a 4th album before you guys decided to break up?
Not really. We didn't really break up, so to speak. We did that album, and then the whole grunge thing had hit, and Beavis and Butthead, and all that shit went down. So there was we really couldn't get a job. You have to understand, like at that point in time, especially for us, like there's nobody that would book us. So we just said, we'll take a hiatus, and everybody went and did their own thing.
All right, you guys, give it up for Mark Weiss, Michael Wagener, George Lynch, and Kip Winger. Enjoy the final day of the Monsters of Rock Cruise. We'll see you out and about. I gotta go.
Thanks, Eddie.